What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Katie.
What's up?
It's been quite a week. I mean,
you could say that.
Not a week.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I have some positive personal news. Every 3 months, my mom gets a PET scan, and we just got her last one back yesterday, and everything looks great.
Yay.
I know.
That's great. Also, I wanted to say happy 6-month kidney anniversary.
Thank you. Yay. Speaking of that, I wanted to mention, I did just post on my Instagram about it, but I wanted to mention it's a big ask to ask somebody to be an organ donor. Obviously, I feel like it's not as big of an ask to go to donatelife.net and register as an organ donor for after you died and don't need your organs anymore. And less than 50% of adult Americans are organ donors. So I think everybody should sign up to be an organ donor. And I think if you are like a healthy person who doesn't have any like weight bearing responsibilities, like picking up kids or whatever, I mean, it's a very few people that are like have the ability to donate an organ, because then you have to have people to take care of you and you have to like not need to worry about the missed income and taking time off your job and da-da-da-da-da. But if all of those things, like, I would definitely do it again if all of those factors lined up the way that they did for me. But yeah, I think everybody should go to donatelife.net and sign up to be an organ donor, because it changes people's lives for the better. Just one kidney from a living donor increases life expectancy by 20 years. One kidney from a deceased donor, which you have 2 of them, is 10 years like per kidney. So like outcomes are better with a living donor, but they're also awesome for a deceased donor. So I just would encourage people to consider that this week.
Yeah.
But thank you.
You don't need those after you die.
Yeah. You're not filtering shit. Nope. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we get into this week's episode? We did just yesterday pass 100,000 coronavirus deaths.
Yeah, and I don't really want to get into much from this week's news. It's just that it's been pretty rotten.
Yeah, so other people are covering. You don't need, I don't know.
But our interview this week is positive and happy and great. And I think that's wonderful, at least. I think we could all use that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Yep, it's with my friend Andrew, who I'm excited for you guys all to meet. He is a television writer in Los Angeles, and he is one of the most friendly and optimistic people that I know. So let's meet him. He's talking to us about something called Pay Up Hollywood, which is a movement dedicated to assistants in Hollywood make like notoriously low wages and are treated really poorly and work terrible hours, and people aren't very nice to them. And they got together. They're demanding better. They're demanding not to be exploited anymore. They're unionizing, and they're seeing positive results.
We love to see it.
We love to see it. So yeah, let's have a change of pace with a positive episode and hear what Andrew has to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Katie.
How are you?
I'm great. Got my kitty cat here.
That's nice.
Just enjoying my gray, lazy day. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited because we get to talk about something positive today.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, it has like a happy ending and a nice moral, and that's not usually our MO.
Yeah, honestly, usually like our podcast is probably kind of a downer to people, but like in a funny way. So
I think
that's this is
going
to be enjoyable. I mean, I hope so too. I hope it's also educational. But like, I know like my mental health was better before I learned anything about politics.
For sure.
And I'm guessing that I'm not the only one who shares that sentiment.
But Andrew knows a lot about politics, and he's like a relentlessly optimistic person. Today we have Andrew from Los Angeles joining us. He is a television writer. How are you today, Andrew?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we are so excited. Do you want to tell people how we met? Do you remember how we met?
I know that we met on Twitter.
That's true.
And I know that we were both commenting on something, but I don't recall specifically what it was.
Okay, I do. It was a tweet from David Hogg about gun control.
Oh, okay. I remember this.
Yeah. That's really, like, that's all I remember. We were arguing the same thing. I think you were a little bit, like, miffed about there was, like, some word that he used that you thought was, like, sloppy, and that if, like, that's the message he was trying to get across, you were like, you got to be better than that, dude. And then...
That could be, yeah.
And then... I don't know, we started following each other on Twitter, and then I think it's that you saw that tweet about me donating my kidney.
Yes.
That made you be like, hey, what's up with that? And I was like, oh, it was honestly not that big of a deal. And you were like, okay, I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah, so, I have the stuff in my house for it.
Yeah, you're like mid kidney donation testing process. How's that going?
It's going. I mean, it's a little. I did not expect the world to be shutting down at when I started doing it. So there's a little bit of a pause right now until I can go back into it. But I'm so far so good.
Yeah.
The preliminary results are all that I'm able to do it.
When did you start that process?
Oh, I mean, it was very shortly after we met. Whenever that was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because I pretty quickly thought, oh, that's an interesting
thing
that a person can do. And I'd always sort of thought about it on just like a casual level, but I'd never met anybody who actually had gone through with it. So
that's kind of what happened to me too, is I hadn't really thought about it that much. But when I found out that somebody needed it and I looked into it, I was like, oh, this is less scary than getting COVID. I mean, I didn't know what COVID was at the time, but I'd rather donate my kidney than get COVID.
I also just want to look like a hero to everybody.
Yeah.
And if you get COVID, they're like, you left your house without a mask. But if you give someone a kidney, they're like, here's free chocolate, or I don't know what.
Yeah, no, they do that a lot. It feels kind of weird. For when I very first came home after like the week that I donated my kidney on a Monday. I was allowed to go back home on Friday. I left the hospital on Wednesday, but I had to stay in an Airbnb like near the hospital just in case anything went wrong, which nothing did. I was allowed to go home, like drive the 2 hours back to Chicago on Friday. Why was I talking about that?
Yeah, about your kidney?
Because people treat you differently.
Oh my God,
I know
thank you.
Now, like me personally, I'm like, wow, I suck. I have never donated a body part.
Yeah, get on it. No, we're just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I
don't think anybody wants my kidneys. I have like a weird autoimmune disease. I'm like, get this out of here. It's inflamed.
Womp womp. I'm sorry. Sorry about your inflamed kidneys. But yeah, my boyfriend was like, when I got back, he was like, your ego is enormous right now. And I was like, every day, multiple times a day, people would come into my room and explain to me what a hero I am. So like I had no choice. Like it has slowly returned to normal since then. But yeah, as soon as I got home, he was like, wow, you have real high regard for yourself, even higher than normal. And I was like, sorry.
I'm actually one of the most self-deprecating people that I know. So I don't really know how. Maybe I would just end up being normal in that instance, whereas most people would be elevated. I would just be a sane, even-keeled individual, finally.
Yeah, the dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does feel a little bit like it is nice that whenever I'm feeling particularly shitty or like anything like that, I can be like, well, I did give somebody one of my organs, so I can't be that bad. Like, it is nice to like have that in your back pocket. Just saying. Well,
and just, if you like kick a puppy or whatever, you're like, listen, I'm allowed to do that kind of stuff now.
Exactly. And let me tell you, that has happened.
Also, if you ever get accused of murder, you can be like, look, I am a life saver, not a life taker. So like, couldn't be me.
Or like,
even if you
look,
are
I
guilty,
broke even.
Yeah, this is true. Like, you'll definitely get a lesser sentence.
I think you should. Yeah, I think it should just be, this is a wash. Yeah.
Okay. Good talk, everybody. Everybody donate your organs so that, or at least become an organ donor. Please.
Yeah. Get that little heart on your driver's license.
Yeah. Do it.
At least that's what we have here, I think.
Yeah, I think we do.
Less than 50% of Americans are registered organ donors. And that's
really
after they die.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah. It's true. They just passed a law in a different, probably better country that instead of opting into organ donation, you have to opt out of organ donation. We should do that here. Maybe somebody should start a cause for it and make change in their community. Like the topic that we're talking about today.
What a transition.
Hey.
Thank you. I'm getting really good at this.
Wow.
Just kidding. But we are talking about something that Andrew has a lot of experience in, which is a movement called Pay Up Hollywood. It has been successful in getting better wages and hours and working conditions for assistants in the entertainment industry who, like, LA is like a notoriously really expensive place to live. There's just all kinds of like confounding reasons for like the housing crisis and everything going on in LA. But this is just a nice story where somebody like was like, hey, this is fucked up. Let's fix it. And it actually amounted to something.
Yeah, it did.
That's amazing. So how did it get started?
So there's a podcast called Script Notes, and it is hosted by two writers named John August and Craig Mazin. Craig Mazin created the show Chernobyl on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
John August is a very well-known writer as well. And so their podcast is just about all kinds of different things, script related, and just industry, Hollywood stuff in general. And they had put out a call just to say, hey, is there anything that, our listeners would want us to talk about? And somebody wrote in and said, what about wages for assistants and how they're terrible and working conditions and hours can be a nightmare. And so they brought that up on their show, and then they said, hey, does anybody else have, a story that they want to share with us or anything else related to that topic? And they just got flooded with messages about it. And it became a big thing. And then a writer named Liz Alper, who is, she's written on a bunch of different shows, and but she was what we say support staff not all that long ago, a few years. I don't want to speak exactly to her experience because I don't know for sure, but she's on the younger side of writers, and she really took up this cause as well, and became kind of the leader of that movement, along with John and Craig and a few other people. It got a lot of attention relatively quickly.
Yeah, that's a really like organic start for a movement.
Yeah, I thought so. So that's kind of the basis of it.
Well, so what kind of successes have been achieved as part of this movement?
It's definitely an ongoing process, but some of the things that we've seen are talent agencies raising pay for their support staff, and in some cases even trimming hours, so cutting an hour off of the workday. But we have some very, very substantial talent agencies, like CAA is kind of what is considered to be the mothership of agencies, and they represent not just writers and directors and actors, but they represent entire brands, and they're massive. And so they came out and said that they were going to give support staff raises, and that was really big because it's one thing to have a small, production company that has a couple of employees doing it, but to have a massive, massive place like that do it really makes a big difference. So there were a couple of talent agencies like that that did it, and those have been the big successes. I mean, there's certainly I'm sure that there are a lot of stories that we're not hearing that are kind of smaller entities that maybe only, as I said, have a couple of people that are, paying attention to it. But that made a huge difference alone. And I think that was, really something that was substantial for people, because it showed that the movement was not just a discussion, it was actually leading to results.
So it's a story of, that's like something that never happens, where like a big industry is called out for an issue and then they change their policies to reflect something better. But a big issue is that LA and Hollywood are like very glamorous, right? Like people want those jobs. Like there's a huge supply. So like, I don't know. I heard a lot of horror stories like of people who weren't allowed to go home for their mom's funeral, or
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. And Hollywood's like filming schedules too, like they're not like regular schedules, right? You work a couple days a week, really long hours, and then
well, you still work. I mean, it depends on what what capacity your job is. It's usually at least 5 days a week.
Okay.
But office jobs and then production on-set jobs are a little different. It's going to be interesting, obviously, when we come back to production, since obviously nothing's shooting right now. Things are going to change, and I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. There are a lot of different conversations about it, but certainly, production, it's a 12-hour minimum day is standard. And the problem is that you have most people, especially on a set, are represented by a union. So you have the majority of the crew are all in unions. The cast, they have the Screen Actors Guild. The writers have, I'm in the Writers Guild of America. That's my union. But support staff, for the most part, did not have a union representing them. And so it created a lot of problems. And then writers' assistants and script coordinators, which are jobs in writers' rooms, were able to unionize with IATSE, which is a union that a lot of different crew are belong to. And so they were able to get a little bit of leverage. So that helped them. And this was prior to the Pay Up Hollywood movement. The problem that they were faced with then was, normally you had a 60-hour guarantee for your paycheck every week. And then when they unionized, it made the pay go up, but then you had a lot of studios saying, okay, we'll pay you that amount per hour, but now we're only giving you a 40-hour guarantee. And so it's it's a back and forth process, but there are still a lot of assistants who are not in unions. So that's why this has been a bigger challenge, especially working in office environments, working in agencies and stuff like that. They don't have the union. So they had to kind of make it happen on their own.
Yeah. So unions make it harder for those workers to be exploited and easier for them to like use their bargaining power for their benefit.
Yeah.
So we like unions here on For Your Misinformation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was wondering about that, because I knew that there were unions for writers and actors, but I didn't know about the rest of the staff. Is there a union for assistants? Those kinds of things. So that's, we do.
And it's tricky because you have assistants that work in such different areas. It's like kind of it's hard to say this is your specific job. There are a bunch of different ones. So it's a lot to figure out.
So what kind of steps have been taken since they posed that question on the podcast to now? Like, what did they take to get from there to a successful movement?
There was a lot of press about it. They did a really good job of publicizing it. And, for a small group of people, they had a lot of voices. So one of the first things that they did was they sent out a survey. And anybody that was able to take that survey, who was an assistant of some kind in the industry, took it. And the results from that survey were pretty damning for, places that were not treating employees right or paying them what they should be paying them. What they consider to be, now I'm forgetting exactly what the figures are, but the majority of people that took the survey were considered to be rent burdened, meaning that I think it was 30%, and I may be wrong about that. I might check that before we're done, but I think it was 30% of your paycheck or more is going to rent.
I bet it's even more than that. I bet it's like 50 or more. So
yeah, it may be something like that. But it was a lot. No, it is 30%.
Oh, okay. That's
wow. I was paying 60% of my monthly paycheck to rent in Peoria, Illinois.
Oh my God.
So that's like shocking. Wow. Yeah.
It's so fun being a millennial. I can't get enough of it.
I lived on like canned green beans and cereal. I mean, it was rough.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't work hard enough.
Yeah, clearly.
That's the problem. You got to want it more.
It was that master's degree in public health. I should have majored in something more lucrative.
Finance. Kevin is definitely
in international business, and it's worthless. I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Kevin is definitely a finance major. He's a business major.
Yeah, Kevin is totally an accountant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay, hold on. I've thought of this. I've almost made that joke before, but Clark's brother is an accountant, and he's very nice. So Kevin can't be an accountant. I promise.
Hashtag not all accountants.
I know. Okay, fine. Hashtag not all accountants. I promised Ryan that I would never compare him to a Kevin. I promised. So we can't. Okay.
Well, sorry.
It's okay. It's no, I mean, quite in my head at least, Kevin owns a car dealership that his dad gave him. He's not, but he was a business major. But I've never dated anybody whose dad owned a car dealership, but this is just how it would go in my head if I did. That's
fair enough.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So what empowered people in the business to take these steps to make these huge changes?
The survey results were very big. It was not just about things like pay. It was crazy. You know, you watch shows like Entourage and you think that's nuts. One of the questions on the survey was, have you ever had an object thrown at you at work? And a large percentage of people, myself included, said yes. Staplers are common. That's a thing.
Oh gosh.
Did you work for Amy Klobuchar? Sorry, no. I'm sorry. She might be our future vice president. I shouldn't talk shit.
I saw. But that is interesting because that was a conversation that, you know, when there were sort of stories coming out about maybe how some people were treated in that space, it was like, that sounds familiar.
Well, I heard that and I was like, that's to me is like disqualified. I mean, whatever. It's like, why would we put up with that when we don't have to? Like, what?
Yeah, like, okay, so I used to work somewhere. It was a local health department, and my boss there was really abusive, and like she threw stuff at me and like yelled at me and had these like super high expectations, and I left that job.
Yep.
I'm totally kidding because Katie was my boss at that health department.
When have you ever worked at a different health department? No. I was like, I never did anything like that.
I know. But I did have a teacher in elementary school who would like routinely throw like pens at students. And I'm like, one of these days he's going to hit somebody in the eye and they're going to sue you.
Damn.
And then I got detention for telling him that.
Oh, well, that's not fair.
Also, like 4th graders should not have detention.
Yeah.
They're 9 years old.
Still figuring it out. Yeah, exactly. I can't try you as an adult.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the results of that survey were pretty telling. And the thing was, like, it's really hard to come out with that kind of stuff. And they had over 1,000 people take that and go to a place that, you know, where the top people that are running it are worth millions upon millions of dollars. And you see that the way that money is spent, and it's really hard for a place like that to justify, you know, paying people not enough money and of that nature. So that was really big. And the other thing about assistants in our business, especially ones that work in offices, is they are the gatekeepers and they know everything. And they are, you know, I was an assistant for years and I was on phone calls, and you're, one of the parts of the job is you listen in on your boss's phone call, because when they hang up the phone, it's kind of like you're expected to have heard the information and then, do whatever you're supposed to do, whether it's schedule a meeting or read a script or whatever it is. And I've really only worked in the entertainment industry, so I don't know if that's the case in other, jobs that are maybe more normal.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But yeah, it's what they say is called rolling calls. So you're making calls for your boss and putting them on the call, and then you're listening. And then if at the end of the call, it's like, well, let's get together for lunch next week. You just know, unless your boss says, I just said that. I don't actually mean it, which sometimes happens. You just know to reach out to the assistant on the other end of that, who is also listening, and schedule a lunch.
Oh my God. I want an assistant so bad.
That sounds great. I would have so many lunches.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I mean, you still have to pay for the lunches, but you don't have to schedule them.
Peaches is my assistant. She's just over here.
She's not helpful.
She looks like a good assistant. She's lying down on the job, though.
Excellent assistant. She does everything I need an assistant for, which is just like remind me that I have some value to this world.
Oh my God. She's good at that.
She is great at that.
Yeah. Cats in general are good at that.
Mm-hmm. A+.
I know. Yeah.
So
it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a blackmail situation, but about finances, about people's personal lives. Like you got a lot of stuff. And granted, there are a lot of places where you're signing an NDA, but that doesn't mean you still don't have stuff on people.
It just sounds like if you're a human and like somebody knows that much about you and they're listening on your phone calls, like, I don't know, to me anyway, I'd be like, wow, I'm sharing a lot of my life with this person because I'm spending so much time here. Like, I feel like I would be like, yeah, you're my employee, but you're also really cool and I like you and you're my friend and you know things about me and I want to learn about you. I don't know, maybe that's just like the extroverted Midwesterner in me, but I can't imagine.
I mean, I had really great bosses near the end of my career as an assistant before I became a writer. But I also worked for a producer who is extremely successful. And every time I see his name in the trades, I just see red because I'm so furious that the way that I was treated and the way that other people were treated in that office, it's maddening. So, that's like they were able to work on issues of pay and hours and a few things like that, but you can't take somebody who's just an asshole and turn him into a decent human being. Yeah, that's a bigger ask, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it seems like that would be an industry that had a lot of like very powerful, unique individuals. Okay, I mean that's not the right word, but like just people who have like big personalities that would be allowed to get away with a lot of stuff that normal people shouldn't be, and take advantage of people. Sounds like
very true.
That's unfortunate. But like income inequality in the United States as a whole is like, that's just what's happening with Pay Up Hollywood is just kind of like a microcosm of that. Like,
yeah,
if it makes it so that the only people who can make it like as assistants or in LA or in that industry, they have to come from well-off families with generational wealth, because it's the same as an unpaid internship, like an underpaid job. Like you have to have somebody who's going to like bankroll you. Otherwise you're going to be living with 8 different people in a 4-bedroom house or I don't know. Oh, wait. Okay. I have a question. And then LA is super flat. Is that because there's earthquakes?
Yeah, we designed it that way so things would fall over. No. I mean, we have a lot of mountains, actually.
No. Sorry, there's no like skyscrapers like at all. I mean,
there are.
I thought you meant geographically.
In fact, we have the U.S. Bank building, which is, I believe, the tallest building this side of the Mississippi.
What? Okay, all right.
Wait, where's Chicago? Are you on the other side of the Mississippi?
Yeah, Chicago's on the other side.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's the tallest building this side. Yeah. There's just nobody goes downtown. I mean, they're working on it, but there's like people come to visit. I'm not like, let's go to downtown LA.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk shit about LA. Actually, and I don't recommend
I do
this
it all the time.
I was like, I talk shit about LA and I live in Iowa. And I've only been there like twice and I'm like, I hate this place.
Oh, I call it it's a necessary evil for me.
That's how I felt about, New York. I think we only have one listener from New York, so it's all right.
I weirdly really like New York. It's just the way the city's laid out is just so sensible. I was like, oh, the city, I'm in love with the city planning of
for sure.
Yeah, of Manhattan specifically, but even Brooklyn's not that bad, except for one time I got really lost there and I ended up in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood and people were looking at me like, you clearly are not one of us. I was like, no, I am not. They were very nice though. But yeah, I love New York. It just feels easy.
No,
New York and Iowa are almost the exact same.
They're very
downtown
similar.
Manhattan and yeah.
I almost went to Columbia and that's what changed my mind was I was like, you know what, this is just too much like home. I'm ready for a different adventure.
Then you went to Iowa State.
Then I went to Iowa State instead.
That's funny.
No, really, my mom was just like, no, you can't go to New York.
Yeah.
Get kidnapped. And I believed her because I was 17.
Sad. She was just trying to keep you safe.
She was trying.
I was going to go to school, and I don't know if this is terrible or not, but I got accepted to Florida State University in Tallahassee.
Mm.
And my mom said, and we're from Seattle, and my mom was like, no, I don't know if that's a good idea. And maybe it's different now, but at the time, but I'm scared that it's not. It was along the lines of things are different in Tallahassee, Florida, in terms of the way that a lot of people think. And live.
Yeah, that would have been a huge culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing a movie last year in Florida, and I was like, oh, this is different. We're in kind of a bubble in some areas of the country, and it's not like that everywhere.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't recommend this, but when I went to LA to record the episode that I did with Self Helpless, Andrew picked me up. We went to breakfast because the flight was really early in the morning. So we went to breakfast. So I met a stranger from the internet in person, which I don't recommend doing, but it worked out this time. And then he nicely, I was going to take an Uber, but he offered to drive me to the studio after breakfast. So I allowed him and didn't get murdered. So
also, I've met so many
public place.
Yeah, no, I know. That's true. I mean, I wasn't being stupid. We met for breakfast in a restaurant back when restaurants existed.
And by the way, what's to say that you wouldn't stab me?
It's a good point. It's true. Nobody should meet anybody from the internet.
No one should meet anybody ever for any reason.
One of my very best friends on the internet when I was in high school, I emailed him because I stalked him and found his email and was like, hi, I found you on the internet. You're also from Iowa. I'm from Iowa. And he was like, this is very odd. And I tracked him down and we met and we're still friends. Hi, Dan.
Yeah. And these are two success stories. I'm sure there's just as many. Well, maybe not just as many, but anyway, sometimes things work out.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Someday I'll get murdered for sure, though. It's fine.
Yeah. So what is the end goal of Pay Up Hollywood?
I don't want to say that it's a moving target, but it does feel as though it changes depending on, this whole, COVID thing has thrown a wrench into everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say our business. It's every business. So it's hard to say what things are going to look like. But I think it's just, ultimately it's better treatment for people. And you brought up the idea of, people wanting an into the industry, but you have to be taken care of at first because the pay is not great. And even with raises, it's still hard to do. And I know a lot of people who, worked second jobs on the weekends. I worked at a talent agency, and a friend of mine there parked cars at a country club on the weekend, because that's just how he made ends meet. And so I think, we want to have less of that, and we want to have less of the crazy, insane hours. And it is, but the idea of people, from all backgrounds being welcomed into our industry is something that is also an issue. And just historically speaking, you have not as much diversity as you would like in our industry. And so, and I've I was very fortunate. My parents helped me out when I was first starting out. And I had friends who did not have that, unfortunately. And, we want to see more diversity in writers' rooms and on sets and just in general. And you have a lot of white people who are taken care of and a lot of people who are not as well taken care of. So that's a big goal for sure. And we're making some progress with it, but it's tricky. And when I started out, one of my first entertainment jobs was in the NBC Page program, which if you ever watched 30 Rock, Kenneth the Page was a real thing. Gotcha. I was a real life Kenneth. And the crazy thing about that job is it's one of the most highly sought after jobs in the business. And it is statistically 7 times harder to get that job than to be accepted at Harvard.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's insanely competitive. And the pay was $10 an hour when I started. And I know friends who were accepted and they literally couldn't take the job. They said, I can't afford it, which that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, seeing more diversity is great. Seeing more people having the opportunity to get their foot in the door, better wages and better hours. Unfortunately, just last week I'm on a Facebook group that has 5,000 or 6,000 assistants, really all over the world. Most are in LA, and then there's quite a few in New York as well. And it's a private group, but you'll see job postings on there. And one of the most prolific and successful producers in the world is notoriously difficult to work for. And there was a job posting listed for him. And it was like, you have to be on call 24/7, 7 days a week, and just lots of stuff like that. So people are now not as shy about calling those things out and saying, this is unacceptable. And unfortunately, there's still going to be people who are going to go for it because it's a job.
Are you familiar with the term trauma-informed care or a trauma-informed approach? Okay.
I know trauma. I have a bunch of that.
Yeah, that's why you're funny.
Yeah.
Katie, you took the words right out of my mouth.
But it's just, it's Morgan and I have both gone to like trainings about it, but it boils down to you don't ever have any idea what's going on in anybody else's life, so you should just be fucking nice to them all the time, basically, and like treat them like humans. But it's like creating a trauma-informed care in like a workplace means that like you have a workplace that like values you first as a human and then second as an employee. And so it just like fosters, it's just a good environment to work in, and it's proven to like people are happier, but also like they get more work done and are happier but more productive, blah blah blah. But it seems like one of the back when I was a health educator, I was like certified to go around and do trainings to workplaces about trauma-informed care, like hoping to like try and change workplace cultures that weren't great, although our workplace culture wasn't great, but whatever. Yeah, it's just like I hear you talk about that and I'm like, damn, they would really benefit from being a trauma-informed workplace for sure.
Yeah, and I know, we do on the shows that I've worked on, we have training at some point. It's always funny to me that, I guess part of it's just a logistics and scheduling thing, but they'll have like HR or people, I don't know if they're always specifically with the studio or the network or if they're like outsiders, but they come in and they do, it's like the sexual harassment training and like, here's what's acceptable and here's not, and all those kinds of things. And it's everybody, it's the cast, it's the crew. It doesn't matter who you are. You're all sitting on the same soundstage listening to the same presentation. And it's funny to me that sometimes those presentations happen like 6 months into the season. It's like, well, all right, we had a lot of time to harass people.
Yeah,
whatever.
We set the tone as harassment's cool. Yeah.
But they do that, but it's, again, those are on shows, and shows notoriously have more people that are in unions. And so the production side of things, you're going to see more of that versus, some office environments where it doesn't exist as much. So
interesting.
Yeah. Well, I feel
like the word on all of this is just so important to get out, like even outside like of Hollywood, because I think so many people have this like misconception that, oh, well, if you move to California, then it's really expensive to live there, but you get paid more. And it's like, not everyone gets paid more. And, you know, they're like, well, LA is just full of those like rich Hollywood types. And, you know, I hear people say that about a lot of like really expensive areas to live. And it's like, no, like there are poor people there. There are people like who live in poverty there. There are people who work 60 hours a week or more and still don't make a living wage to reside in the city in which their job is. And I think that like this whole movement's so important to get the word out, like in like even outside of like your particular like area of work, just because I think that this is something that really permeates a lot of American culture.
For sure. And I think there are conversations happening right now about with this whole coronavirus thing and what's going to happen is that when things go back to, or when we kind of figure out what our new normal looks like, is part of that people don't have to necessarily be in LA for some jobs. Mm-hmm. Can you work from home? I don't know. I don't want to be in a writer's room on Zoom, and most of the writers that I know also don't want that. So, but I've also worked on shows where the last show I was on, we had a writer who was in England. So he would join us online, and then a couple of times a season, he would fly out to LA and be with us for a week. But, yeah, that's been part of the conversation too. It's just like, there are some jobs, it seems like you could be pretty much anywhere, and certainly like assistant type jobs in offices. If you're just answering phones and sending emails, you have to be in LA for it. I think the bigger issue is that if you're networking with people, which is so huge, especially in our business, you kind of have to be in a place where you can do that.
That would seemingly ultimately mean probably more liberal people moving back into less liberal areas. Like,
well, that's what I was thinking. It could change the whole election landscape.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to be so densely populated in cities anymore.
Well, the Republicans would have to re-gerrymander everything.
We're working on like a couple episodes now. One of them, I don't know if the whole episode will be about gerrymandering, but it definitely has themes of gerrymandering. And it's just weird. Like, while I was working on that episode, I was like, damn, America for real. If you like picked it up and you like shook it around and then you put it back down, Democrats would win all the elections. It's only that way because like they got to see how it landed. They drew their own maps. And then, it's just like, damn, can we just like shuffle everything around? Like, can we?
Yeah.
But okay, so that's depressing.
Gentle sifting.
Yes, exactly. Someday. Just some minor jumbling would do it.
LA would be fine because, we're used to earthquakes.
Yeah.
So we know what that feels like.
My God, it would be so stressful to live in LA. Right.
Because
just sorry. Like my.
Yeah, it's true.
With COVID, and then haven't you had like 2 earthquakes since COVID started, or at least one?
Yeah, we had one that was not all that long ago.
I can't imagine like. I would just give up. I'd be like, really, a fucking earthquake during a pandemic? Like, no, nope.
Yeah.
No.
The problem for me is my house is located. Whatever the way that it's built, anytime like a big truck drives by, there's like a little bit of a shift. So I'm always sort of like, oh, is that it? Is it happening? I mean, I'm used to them. I've been in a number of earthquakes now, so it's sort of, they come and then they go. But there's always that talk of like the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I'll take my like good Midwestern tornadoes.
Okay.
Those are much more predictable and kind of fun to watch.
I have experienced an earthquake here.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up
cool.
like on like the New Madrid like fault line, like, and then it splits off into like the Plum Creek fault. It was like a whole geographical lesson we had in freshman year earth science, and they were like, yeah, when this earthquake happened in 1640 something or whatever, like it split apart this area here, and then 100 years later they built a quarry here because it opened up the earth and we found limestone. Okay, cool. And they're like, and if it ever happens again, we're all gonna die. I was like, great.
Oh no. It was minor, and it was at like 3 a.m.
and people still freaked out.
Yeah,
Ivan's would not do well in California.
No.
Well, we're a very special and crazy kind of people. So
I did really like it there. I mean, I spent most of my time in Santa Barbara, and it was lovely.
Santa Barbara's great.
I would definitely go back. And I don't know. Hopefully, will.
So kind of circling back a little bit, like I noticed something that you said earlier when you said that, like, when somebody that you've worked with that was like basically just a huge asshole, and then when you see their name, it like makes you see red because you're like, this person sucks, and it sucks to like see them doing well and getting things and all of that. It reminded me a lot of like the Me Too movement. And how like a lot of victims of sexual assaults and sexual harassment feel for sure when they see their like assaulters doing well or getting appointed to the Supreme Court, etc. Like, so how is this as Pay Up Hollywood? How is this like the Me Too movement?
I think they're very similar. I mean, they're talked about a lot in the same circles. I think, you know, for us, I guess it felt like talking about hours and paychecks was not the sensitive subject for some that, you know, assault certainly is. And it's much easier to quantify what that looks like. You can show someone a pay stub and you can show them how much you're making an hour. Whereas, you know, the behavioral issues, as I said earlier, it's like, it's hard to make someone just be a better human being. There was a movie that came out, I don't remember if this was this year. I think it was January, called The Assistant, which has Julia Garner in it, who's on Ozark. And it was kind of the Harvey Weinstein story. In a way, it wasn't actually him, but it was, she plays an assistant, and there's a boss who you actually never see the boss. You hear him a couple of times. You might see, like, you know, him like crossing frame as he's walking into his office, but he's not really a character. It's more that persona is the character. So I would encourage people to watch that movie. Her character is not sexually harassed by him, but you know that he is. It was kind of like if you saw Bombshell, it was sort of the same idea of him like having women come into his office and the doors closed and what's going on in there. Yeah. So yeah, the movements are similar. I think it's like, I don't know. It's there are people out there who are still terrible and abusive in ways that you can't look at it on paper and see it. So
yeah. I think that's
I don't
exactly
want to say that our movement's easier, but yeah.
It boils down to abuse and people taking advantage of other people, and just because it's not sexual harassment doesn't mean it's not inappropriate. But yeah, I think they're super related. Just
I mean, I think we're certainly seeing progress with guys like Harvey Weinstein and, you know, folks who are being called out more and really facing the consequences of that kind of stuff. But it's like people who are just mean in general. It's almost like, you know, it's like you don't install a safety device on something until it kills somebody. And then they're like, oh, well, now we have the proof that it's dangerous and we have to do something about it. And it's the same. It's like you have people like this producer who had this job listing who is notorious for and I think he has something like 7 assistants.
Wow. Who
are doing different things. And so this was just one of those assistants, but it's very common knowledge that like a lot of people go and they last 6 weeks or 2 months maybe. But if you can last a year, then you've paid your dues and you can do, you know, you can get all kinds of great jobs in the business. But it's like, just because the person is a nightmare to work with doesn't mean that it's like, well, they're mean and they're kind of a dick all the time, but we can't send someone to prison just because we don't like them or they're asking us to do too much. So yeah.
How does this entertainment industry cause relate back to politics as a whole?
I think I've known people who just, they don't vote because they feel like, what good does it do? Mm-hmm. When I'm voting for president in the state of California, you know, the Democratic, you know, that's who's going to get the votes in California. It's like they look at a lot of the system in general and they just think, what's the point? And, you know, historically, support staff in the entertainment industry, it was a very disenfranchised group, and it was people who felt like, because we're not being paid well and we have these terrible hours, and my boss is driving a different sports car to work every day and I'm taking the bus, and you know, it's like there's just no, what's the point in trying to like fight these things? These people have so much power and they have so much money, and they're also, you know, obviously politically involved. A lot of these people, you know, politicians come to LA and they go to the houses of these people who you've heard of. So it's like, you know, we're this tiny group of people. How much power can we possibly have? And, you know, all it takes is like one person who says, you know, this isn't right. You know, look at somebody like Rosa Parks, who's like, I'm not going to do that. And all of a sudden that becomes a huge thing. And so I think it relates to the fact that not only was it a big movement, and it's an ongoing process and it's going to be for a long time. But without that happening, you wouldn't have assistants who are making a lot more money every day than they were prior to all this happening. So I think it's just taking a group of people that feel like maybe they don't have the power and saying, no, if you actually go out there and you fight for it, and you bring facts to the table, it's not just about emotions. I think emotions is what can become a problem, because that can be very, you know, different people have different takes on it, and oh, that's the way that you feel, that's not the way I feel. But if you come to somebody with numbers and you say, I literally can't afford to live here on what you're paying me, how can you expect me to do this job? So yeah, just understanding that, you know, you get people together who have a cause that they want to fight for, and you bring facts to the table, and you bring your passion for it, and it can actually affect real change. So I think, you know, politics, it's the same way. Just because you feel like you're one voter, you've got a ton of power, and people have to remember that the politicians work for us. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. And your vote might not count much towards the presidential election in your California general in November, but your comptroller might only win by like 50 votes, or your attorney general might only win by 200 or something like that. So there's people all up and down the ballot that actually impact your life a lot more than the president does anyway, and you should go vote for those people. But you're right. There's a lot of like really disenfranchised people that don't understand there are super tangible ways that politics impact your life, or can, if you band with somebody and are stubborn and decide that it's fucked up and you want to fix it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this was just a great example of people taking on a system that's huge and seeing change happen where they felt like they couldn't have that before. So it's like what you're doing with the podcast. It's, you know, getting the word out. And,
thanks.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, it's like that's like exactly what we're trying to do here. And I feel like there are just so many historical examples of just like a small group of people who are like, you know what, we think this should change. And they're not always successful, but at the very least, they get conversations going that
they plant seeds.
Can eventually, they plant those seeds. I mean, like last week, we had our episode that was an interview with Kate Kelly, who has a podcast all about the Equal Rights Amendment. It's been almost 100 years since that conversation first entered like the sphere of politics, and it's still not passed. Like, it's still not ratified, but there's still people talking about it, and it inspired a lot of change, even though like ultimately the original goal still hasn't been achieved. And I think that that's so important for people to to recognize too.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not like you don't just snap your fingers and it's fixed. It's definitely a process for sure.
I think that's very frustrating, but that's
yeah.
As is so many things.
Yeah,
it's also frustrating to sit there and do nothing.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh yeah, well I guess that's true of fucking anything. So like I should just like do stuff.
Yeah.
But no, that's that's definitely like a good thing to remember. Yeah. Andrew, do you want to nominate either an asshole of the week or a nice person of the week? And they get to go up on our continuum. Once.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Well, who are some of the folks that are up there?
That's Hitler.
I see Hitler.
Of course. Mitch McConnell, Jared Kushner, Scott Pruitt, Kelly Loeffler, Mitt Romney. Right in the middle, you got Stanley Hudson from The Office. Because he seems...
I'm sitting at Phyllis's desk right now, so that's fitting.
What?
Did you not know that about me?
No!
Oh, yeah, I own Phyllis's desk. I'm looking at the Dunder Mifflin phone sheet right now.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Yep.
Oh, this is pure happiness.
Okay, well, that's Stanley in the middle. Joe Biden just north of Stanley, but barely, and he's on thin ice. And then you got Chris Evans over there. And I keep meaning to put Tom Hanks over there.
Oh, yeah.
But so that's who we're working with.
I had plenty of time to think about this too.
Oh, no, I mean, no pressure. It doesn't matter.
Directions in which I could go. I mean, I think I'm both. So if you could take my picture and put it on both sides.
No, humans are complicated.
Yeah, I mean, they are. Everybody's got.
I think we established that.
Yeah. Also, you're going to donate a kidney, so that ultimately puts you very close to Chris Evans.
Side. That's funny.
I mean, I'm gonna, but I haven't yet.
Yeah.
But it's still north of Joe Biden. He's never donated a kidney.
No.
Does it have to be like a random? Does it have to be a substantial person everybody knows? Because
it can be your bully from third grade if you got one.
Oh, I hated that kid, but he's dead now. No, I'm kidding. No. Did you see the video of the guy who went to Costco and was very fired up about them asking him to wear a mask? And he said, well, I woke up this morning and I had my freedoms. And then I came to Costco and now I don't have them anymore. And it's like just the embodiment of that person in general, these people who are so fired up. I'm going to say that's my answer, actually.
Yeah,
okay.
Get it.
Where do you want him to go?
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, they're not Hitler.
Yeah.
But they're definitely like...
They're on the bad side. I think it's probably a question
they're on the bad side.
Are they better or
on the bad
worse?
side? Are we living in the bad place right now, though?
Well, of course we are.
What if we're all on the bad side?
This is definitely purgatory. Like, the world ended in 2012 as the prophecy foretold, and this is purgatory.
Okay, look, I don't believe in purgatory. I wasn't raised Catholic.
Oh, right. I don't really believe in anything. But do you think he belongs... Is he better or worse than Kelly Loeffler? Who I think just seems to be entirely motivated by greed mostly.
I'm going to say... This is a tricky one.
That is tough.
I feel like I'm going to say better.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's complicated.
Yeah.
I understand that there are people who are feeling upset about things right now. And I'm upset about things too, but at the same time, just put on the mask, dude.
Yeah.
If you got to go to Costco and buy 17 gallons of mayonnaise or whatever.
Yeah.
Really?
You can do it in a mask. You're still free.
Like, if you believe that businesses have the right to deny service to like a gay couple who wants a cake for their wedding, then you also have to get on board with businesses denying service to people who won't put on a mask.
Seriously, the hypocrisy that I've seen in the last several years just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you get with it.
So, angry Costco guy who didn't take his sunglasses off indoors for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
definitely
sociopath
worse.
for sure.
But I guess, sorry. Yes. They can, angry Costco man can absolutely go on the continuum. I think a lot of people can relate to that or, have an angry Costco man in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we usually try to end with whatever like our favorite or what political actions we took within last week. But like, what are your kind of favorite ways to get involved with? I mean, I know you talk a lot and think about politics a lot, so I'm curious to know what it is. What are your favorite ways to get involved?
I feel like a lot of my favorite ways are not the most productive ways. They're yelling at Donald Trump on Twitter.
Yeah. You gotta know what he's going on about, though.
Also, I mean, we bullied Justin Amash into not running for president anymore.
Which
that was all us.
I know, and I give you the credit for it. That was huge.
Thanks. You guys are all welcome.
For me, it's been more about, and on being totally sincere, your podcast is what helped me to kind of start looking more into why I'm even living this life. I just hate everything. No, I'm kidding. No, it was looking more into just kind of the local side of things. And so I've been kind of trying to just research a little bit more, because you get, especially when you're looking at a ballot and there are all these names of people that you're like, who, I don't even know what am I voting for?
Mm-hmm. What is a comptroller?
Solicitor General. What?
Yeah, or as Kevin from The Office says, if anybody knew what a comptroller was, which is one of my favorite lines from the whole series, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, so yeah, it's sort of, I'm just trying to educate myself more. I like Katie. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I reached out to you a couple weeks ago with some political question. It was something about, why is this the way that things are the way that they are? And I think you were like, I don't know, who is this new phone?
No, I did not.
No, you didn't. I wish I could remember what the question was.
I'll go look.
Clearly, I'm paying attention. But yeah, it's just in general trying to kind of educate myself more on the different people. So I don't know I think, so then to me, turning that into action means when it's time to vote, understanding who I'm voting for and what they stand for, and trying to not read the booklet like on the morning of and learn everything. There's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's part of what's so great about vote by mail, because if you're voting by mail, you have a little bit more time to fill out the ballot, and you can Google people if you forgot, like, oh crap, I have to vote for a judge.
I know. Judges can be great or terrifying.
Hey, exactly. Like, I want to know stuff about them. I'm not just voting straight ticket. Like, it's not what we're here to do.
And I think that's been part of it too. Like, I definitely hear people who I normally agree with who say things where I'm like, I'm not on board with that, which actually makes me feel better, because then I feel like it's not like it's not just black and white. It's like, I do have, not everything is perfect, so as opposed to people who are like, Donald Trump has never said or done anything wrong ever. Yeah. It's like, really? You can't give him one thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you were asking me if Biden could be replaced with Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm pretty sure at the time I was like, man, I really don't know. And I still really don't know. But it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, that's what my mom wants to happen.
I guess Katie doesn't know as much as she claims to know.
Nope, I'm a big faker. Great. No, actually, I take great pride in the fact that I tell people I don't know the answer when I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important.
Thank you.
Yeah. Especially as health educators, like, we know that. Like, we know the importance of being like, you know what? I don't know that answer. I will try to get one for you tomorrow, but I'm not just going to spout off some bullshit just because you asked, and I don't want to say I don't know.
Anyway, I have to go take my hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, and my colloidal silver.
Oh, I hadn't even heard of that one.
Oh, wow. My goodness. Yeah. That's not one that like Trump has been saying, but that's one that a lot of the like MLM Huns and just like general like we love alternative medicine folks are on. Like, it's not good.
No.
Can we like follow Pay Up Hollywood on social media, or like do anything particularly to support like this movement, even as people who don't work in the industry?
There's the Pay Up Hollywood hashtag was our big thing. on Twitter, and there is a Pay Up Hollywood Twitter account as well. Yeah, the momentum was really big, and it's still certainly there. But obviously, at the moment, things are there's no office. Nobody can throw a stapler at you because you're not supposed to be within 6 feet of them. I mean, mine was from like 20 feet, but still.
Yeah. A stapler could really like hurl well. And like, I personally think it's very important for all of us to be good at throwing things, because someday we're going to have to be chucking those Molotov cocktails and we've got to have a cannon.
Yeah.
We did an active shooter drill. Did you work where we worked when we did an active shooter drill?
No, but I did one at my previous 2 jobs, probably around the same time.
Their example of like a way to distract the shooter is to throw a stapler at them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so all these producers are actually heroes.
No, no.
They're
I could
practicing
see where you'd be confused, but no, that's not right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Unless they've donated kidneys.
You're still not allowed to throw staplers at people.
Yeah.
Katie, if you threw a stapler at me, I would have to forgive you because of the kidney thing.
That doesn't make any sense. I didn't give it to you.
It's okay. It still means something.
Yeah.
It's like if Mother Teresa threw a stapler at you. Are you going to be like, well...
Like overall, she's mostly good, but...
Yeah, if you look at the trajectory, not of the stapler, but of her life.
Humans are complicated.
Yep.
What can we say?
Yep.
Yeah. Good point.
And then, like, with things being insane in the world right now, do you have any like self-care tips or things you want to share with the listeners that they should be getting into right now?
Go to raves, crowded places. No. I'm a runner, so movement is important. Yeah. In fact, I'm wearing I don't know, this was from some run I did, the shirt that I'm wearing. 2000 half marathon. Oh, Base to Space. This is when I climbed the Space Needle in Seattle.
Nice. Ooh, fun.
Yeah, this was for a cancer charity.
Yes.
So, exercise is big, and I'm lucky to live in a neighborhood where it's like single family homes. It's not super crowded, so I can safely mask up and run. And I'm miserable wearing the mask while running. Don't get me wrong, but it's better.
Well, that's good.
That and just, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I've seen a lot of it on Twitter, but certainly it's happening in our industry specifically, where people are like, you should be super productive right now, and you should write the great American novel and write the best screenplay and all these kinds of things. And I would say just you don't have to do that, but it's also good to stay somewhat productive, at least for me. Everybody's different, but get some exercise and move and just eat a lot of ice cream. That's how I live life.
Nice.
Yeah, those are good words.
We can support that.
Yeah, I've gone through 8 jars of peanut butter since March 17th when quarantine started, so I
Chunky
get it.
or smooth?
Both.
Oh.
Depends on what I'm putting it on.
Oh, you're putting it on. Okay, you're one of those people.
Yeah, if I'm eating it out of the jar, then I like chunky. But like, and for toast, I'll do anything on toast. Toast is God's favorite food. But if I'm like putting it in my oatmeal, then I want creamy because it melts a little better and it's smoother. Depends.
Yeah, you should do a separate like oatmeal or a peanut butter podcast.
It's in the works.
I could totally have a podcast.
You should call it the Peanut Butter Podcast. It's just a fun name.
God, people would think it was dirty. They'd be like, what is this? And I'd be like, oh, you're going to be so disappointed when it's just me talking about how much I actually love peanut butter.
Just literally peanut butter.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, for enough money, I'll make it dirty, but...
Well,
how is that dirty? I don't understand.
Oh, Katie.
What? Fine, tell me later. Is there anything you want to promote? Are there any what? I don't know. And do you want people to watch your magic shows on Instagram or watch any TV shows that you've worked on?
When this comes out, I'm doing a live magic show on Saturday. But that will have already happened.
Yeah.
But I post them on Instagram.
Yeah, Andrew Zuber on Instagram. Is that your handle?
That's Instagram. Twitter is the real Zuber.
The real Zuber.
Mm-hmm.
He does magic, and it's really good. And he learned a new trick today.
Thank you. I did. Shows I've watched. Well, if you, I wrote on a show called Stitchers. People can check that out. I believe it's on Hulu.
Nice.
That was a show about how people going into the memories of dead people to find out how they died.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. So that was fun. And then if you have very small children or you're stoned, you can watch a show I did called Rainbow Butterfly Unicorn Kitty on Nickelodeon, which is an animated series.
Amazing.
And that's all one character, by the way. That's not 4 separate entities. That's all one thing.
Good. Great.
So,
perfect. Writing that down.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then my SoundCloud. No, I don't have that.
Not yet. No. Coming soon.
What about your TikTok?
Oh God.
I had TikTok and then I deleted it. I didn't even make one.
I don't know.
I feel like TikTok would just be my gateway drug to like joining an improv class, so I know better.
It seems like a really efficient way of messaging, but like
messaging?
Yeah, like it seems like, I mean, there's some that are just like, I don't know. Maybe
well, there was like that crazy nurse who was like, you should lick subway poles, and that was like her messaging on TikTok. But I guess you could do it and
in
not
a positive way. Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy in China who had to use it to like keep in touch with his family because of like the authoritarianism and all of that, and like they were Muslim, and there was a whole thing. Yeah, he had to like escape, and they were put in jail. It was really dramatic.
No, we're gonna end on
why am I always such a downer?
Yeah, we're gonna end on the happy note of Andrew's magic. Andrew's magic.
Yep, Instagram stories. Not my grid. That's all just photos I've taken.
Yeah.
But
no, he has Instagram live stories of like very well produced magic shows. Surprisingly well produced magic shows for being at a home.
Yeah. About right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us this surprisingly positive story in a not so positive time.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Phyllis's desk and I were thrilled to be a part of this.
Such a joy.
Good. Well, we will have to have you and Phyllis's desk back on another time.
Yeah, I'll make up something to talk about.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will have to talk to you later.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I always love hearing stories about small groups of people like coming together and making a difference in their community. They're the best.
Yeah, like it makes me so happy. And it's like, that's like, to me, like the foundation of like America.
Yeah, and we can still do it.
Yeah, exactly. We can. And I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. Like we'll point out the cracks in the foundation to you, but we also want to show you that it's still there.
Yep.
And that's how you do it correctly.
Yeah. One of the things that's exciting this week that is people like coming together to try to create some change is the Adopt a State.
Yes, I'm
very excited about.
We are so excited. I love seeing new tools come out that are like, oh my gosh, this is actually really useful and really simple, and people are gonna like it. Like people, not just like us who are super nerdy and we're thinking about it already. Like Crooked Media created a new tool called Adopt a State. So you can go to votesaveamerica.com/adopt. And you can pick between one of the 6 most likely swing states, the purplest states in the country. You got Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, Michigan, Florida. No, I already said that. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very excited. Like we had a very hard time just picking one.
Yeah. So I signed up for 3 just because I wanted to see what they were sending out. Because I feel an affinity for Michigan and Wisconsin because they're our Midwest friends, and then Pennsylvania because my best friend lives there, and I don't want her to live in hell. So I want to help Pennsylvania as much as possible.
Yeah, I really loved. John Lovett shared something, and it was like how to pick your adopt a state based on your zodiac sign, which I thought was delightful. And it pointed me to Michigan.
Okay, that makes sense. So I don't know which. I think I'll probably honestly stick with Michigan. All of my letters that I've been writing with Vote Forward have been with Michigan, or been to Michigan. Like, that's what I've been doing so far. Trump won by the smallest margin in Michigan. It was just like 10,000 votes or something there. So part of me is like, we gotta fucking fix Michigan.
Yeah.
So, but
I also signed up for Wisconsin though, because they're my neighbor state, and they Trump won a very, very small margin there.
Yeah, so. I think it was like 23,000 votes in Wisconsin. So we're dealing with real small margins.
Literally 1 point.
And so I watched a webinar with Ben Wickler, who is the Democratic Party chair in Wisconsin. He's a really smart dude. And he was talking like these candidates that we're supporting with Sister District, Lori Pahutsky and Robin Vining, the trivia that we're going to and stuff like that, they legit win their races by 100, 200 votes. I think Robin Vining won by like 150 in Wisconsin, and Lori Pahutsky won by like 220 in Michigan. One volunteer between now and election day can absolutely have a 150 vote difference, or even like a 220 vote difference. You just have to like concentrate your energy in one place. So that's why we're so excited about Adopt a State.
Adopting states is a good thing, and everybody should do it.
Yeah. So that's also our challenge to you for the week.
Yeah. Adopt a state. Like, it's so easy. Like, it's great. It's very easy. Adopt a state, and then they'll send you stuff that you can do. And
calls to action.
Awesome. Like, what a great idea. Also, I would like to propose, hello, people at Crooked Media. I really hope you're listening, that when it's safe to travel and gather again, we have like an Adopt a State Olympics where we do different, like, ridiculous, like PE, elementary school PE type competitions.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Right? Wouldn't that be
like
so much fun?
Day?
Yeah, like a field day.
Oh my gosh.
Like a summer camp field day or something. And like all the people who have adopted the different states that are competing, like instead of the countries, I think that it would be so fun. We can make it potluck style, and you bring foods from the states you've adopted.
We might have to wait until the 2024 election just because of Corona.
Yeah, which is fine.
But I love the idea.
I will wait my whole life to make this happen.
Yeah. So adopting a state is challenge A. Challenge B, which is more important and also slightly harder, although not hard, it's just you have to be a little bit brave if it's something that you haven't done before, is we want you to adopt a state, and then we want you to post about it on social media. And when you do that, if you want to tag us, we would love to repost whatever you post.
Yeah. Adopt your state, post about it. We'll probably try to repost you if you're cool with that. Tag us or like at us.
Yeah. So I know you don't think of yourself as an influencer, but the people who follow you on social media, they know you and they trust you. And if you signal that you care about certain things, they will wonder if those are things that they're supposed to be caring about themselves. So I don't know. It's what we have. It's effective. It's just, we all have to think of ourselves kind of as like mini influencers. We don't have the kind of reach as the Internet Research Agency in Russia or anything like that, but we're real and we have real connections with the people in our lives. And if it's important to you, then it should be important to them too. And it's one of the most important things you can do. So that's our challenge. Adopt a state. We don't care which one you pick. And then post it on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. We want to see it. We want to know who you picked.
Yeah, let's do it. And let's create some change in America. Let's flip this country upside down, because that's what it needs right now. Because at this point, everything is on fire, and like literally in some places. So let's do it. Let's get Donald Trump out of office.
Yes.
Let's flip some states, and let's flip the Senate. And let's also stop being racist.
Yeah. Good segue.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a cause that we want to encourage everybody to donate to. Speaking of racism, is the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Or if you have local organizations that are really important to you, that they could definitely use your help. I know that people in Louisville and Georgia also have, some local organizations doing work, and I mean all across the nation really, but the killing of George Floyd is appalling and sickening. It makes me just like feel heavy in my chest every time I think about it or hear his name or see any of the videos or images. But George Floyd isn't the only Black person to die at the hands of police and then have those police officers who murdered him or she or them just walk away. And like there are really no words that actually are accurate for this. And so just donate and do everything else that you can to support those causes.
We have an episode on white supremacy. It's the very first episode, so it is inevitably the most awkward episode, so don't make fun of me, but it has a lot of really good information. Mm-hmm. So I would suggest that's always a good one to brush up on. I guess you weren't there yet, so it's probably very boring, but
it's a short one because I wasn't there yet, like taking up all the talking time.
But I talk a lot about a book called How to Be Less Stupid About Race, which is a book I highly recommend by Crystal K. Fleming.
There are a lot of great books out there written by Black authors. Read them, learn. White people, get educated.
Yeah,
we all have a responsibility to do that. Yeah. And listen to Black voices when they say what needs to change. I mean, that starts with us, but I mean, that seeps into every institution in this country, because that's really where the big change in racism is made, is in those institutions that are racist and have been. There's never been a time in this country that the nation itself has not been racist.
Yeah. We applauded Minneapolis for firing those 4 police officers. None of them have been charged with murder yet. We all saw him murder George Floyd on camera. Why wouldn't he be arrested for murder?
Yeah. And the Breonna Taylor murder as well. Same thing. No punishment has been doled out yet to those officers who broke into her home and started firing. That's not okay. And luckily her partner has been cleared of charges, because initially he was charged with assaulting an officer when he didn't even know that the people that were breaking into their home were officers. So, I mean, I hate that those are victories, because they're not, because they're just very small. That's just bare minimum. And we need to do a lot better than the bare minimum.
Her boyfriend's name is Kenneth Walker, by the way.
Kenneth Walker, yes. So, I mean, I'm very glad that he's not going to be charged for defending himself in his home.
Right.
And that the 911 tapes have been released even too. And it was clear when he called 911, he had no idea they were officers in his home. He's somebody broke into my home. They're shooting, my girlfriend's been shot. All of this needs to change. And so, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We're definitely not going to be done talking about this, probably ever in our lifetimes. But I mean, this is at least a start.
All right. Do you have you do have a more positive note to end on. You got to vote this week.
I did get to vote. Yay. So I did send in my ballot.
Very nice.
Vote by mail. What up? So I'm very excited. The Democratic primary is June 2nd in Iowa, and I sent in my ballot. Very excited about it.
Nice.
So we'll see what happens. I obviously am going to support whatever Senate candidate is up against Joni Ernst. I hope it's Kimberly Graham, but I also really like Teresa Greenfield as well.
Yeah.
And she's largely the front runner. So we'll see.
We'll see. I'm excited to find out.
It felt so good to put that ballot in the mailbox. It just felt so
Fuck
empowering.
you, Donald Trump.
Yeah, I love voting. Love voting so much.
Mm-hmm. And I love voting by mail.
Yep. Love voting
Sue
by mail.
me.
That's like the only way I've ever voted.
Yeah. It's not the only way I've ever voted, but it's like hands down my favorite.
I voted in person one time. Otherwise, only ever by mail. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great and everyone should be able to do it.
Yep. Don't worry. When you can apply to vote by mail, we will let you know.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be drilling it into your heads. All right. Well, got anything else?
No, not really. When this episode comes out, I will hopefully still be feeling all right. I'm going to run for Feeding America. One of my friends is running 50 miles in support of Feeding America to keep hungry bellies full. And I pledged money myself.
Nice.
And I'm going to, for some reason, the running community were very weird about this. We're like, well, I'm going to pledge money, and then that means I'm going to have to run. So I pledged to run 10 miles. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but you know what? I'm going to try.
Wait, what? You don't think you're going to be able to run 10 miles?
I don't. Like, my hip has
lungs?
been real janky
hip.
lately, and my lungs have been hellish ever since, like, March. So I'm really not sure it's going to happen, but that's okay. I still donated my money regardless of whether or not I could finish my running. So, yeah. Wish
How
me luck.
long have your runs been lately?
An hour is the longest that I've been able to run, and even that required me to stop midway. So we'll see. Okay. That's like 8 miles in an hour.
Gotcha. Sounds insane. Okay. Well, then we will talk to you guys next week. Stay sexy.
And just don't be racist. Black Lives Matter.
Stop
all
being
of
so
it.
Racist.
Stop being so racist. Stop it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.